Once upon a time, in a lively village, there lived a couple named Fatima and Lau. Their home, though small and simple, was brimming with love. Fatima had a gentle smile that could brighten any room, while Lau was strong and handsome. They cherished their happiness, especially with their 4 beautiful daughters, each one a bright and precious gem. Despite their deep love, Fatima and Lau faced significant poverty. Every day, Lau labored tirelessly on neighboring farms to ensure they had enough food. Though meager at times, they were always grateful for what they had. Fatima, too, contributed greatly, fetching water, washing clothes, and carrying goods in the market to earn a little extra for their family. Despite their hard work, life remained challenging. Their daughters were growing and needed school supplies like books and pencils, which often stretched their tight budget. Sometimes, the girls had to leave school early due to unpaid fees. Though saddened, Fatima and Lau embraced their daughters warmly, played with them, and strove to bring joy to each day. Their home echoed with laughter and the patter of little feet, a testament to their enduring love and resilience. Fatima and Lau loved each other and their daughters very much, even though they didn't have a lot of money. They always hoped things would get better, especially for their girls. Every night, they sat outside their small house, holding hands under the twinkling stars, dreaming of a brighter future. One sunny morning, Lau felt really sad. He knew he had to find a way to make life better for his family. So, he walked a long way to visit his friend in the next village. Lau told his friend about how tough things were and asked, "Can you help me with some money?" His friend listened carefully and said, "Lau, I won't just give you money. I'll teach you how to solve your problems so you won't struggle anymore." Lau didn't understand at first, but he nodded, hoping his friend had good news. Together, they went deep into the forest to see an old herbalist, a person who knows a lot about plants and herbs. The herbalist's house looked strange, covered in symbols, and surrounded by unusual plants. Lau felt a chill as he stepped inside. The air smelled strong of herbs and something else he couldn't quite figure out. After Lau shared his story with the herbalist, the old man's eyes gleamed strangely. "I can make you very rich, but there's a catch," he said seriously. Lau was curious. "What do I have to do?" he asked eagerly. The herbalist looked at him seriously and replied, "You must use your children in the ritual. They won't die, but they will suffer." Lau was shocked and horrified. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "I can't do that," he said firmly. "I want money to make my children's lives better, not to hurt them. I'd rather live than do this to my own daughters." But then the herbalist said something chilling, "Now that you've seen and heard, if you walk away, you won't make it home." Lau felt scared and trapped, his mind racing. He thought about their small house, the unpaid school fees, and the empty plates at dinner time. With a heavy heart, Lau reluctantly agreed to the herbalist's dark offer, hoping desperately that it wouldn't be as bad as it sounded. The herbalist gave him a small pouch of black powder and told him to mix it into his children's food. Lau left the herbalist's eerie house burdened with guilt and fear, unsure of what lay ahead. When Lau got back home, he felt gloomy and disheartened. He did as the herbalist had instructed, adding a bit of the black powder to his daughter's meals. He prayed silently that it wouldn't harm them and that somehow everything would turn out alright. But the next day brought something strange and unsettling. A powerful wind swept through the village, howling as if it were angry. It wasn't just any wind, it rattled doors and shook trees, leaving everyone in the village uneasy. For Lau's family, however, it brought something even more ominous. Lau and Fatima's eldest daughter, known for her bright smile, suddenly couldn't see anymore. She cried, saying everything was dark. Lau's heart broke into pieces. He hoped it was just an accident caused by the wind, but deep down, he knew it was because of the strange black powder. The village whispered about the wind and their daughter's sudden blindness. One quiet day, a mysterious man in all black came to the village. He carried a heavy sack and went straight to Lau's house. He said he heard about their daughter and wanted to help. "Don't open this sack until I'm gone," he told Lau and Fatima with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Curious and hopeful, Lau and Fatima waited until the man left, then opened the sack. Inside were shiny gold and silver coins. They forgot their worries and laughed and danced together. They thought their troubles were over, thinking maybe the deal with the herbalist wasn't so bad after all. But as the coins sparkled in the sunlight, Fatima looked at her daughter, still unable to see, and felt a chill. The stranger had given them wealth, but the wind had taken something far more precious. Lau tried to comfort Fatima, saying it was just fate playing a trick. But deep down, he knew they had paid a steep price for the coins, a price his wife didn't know about. With the money from the sack, Lau and Fatima's lives changed completely. They bought big farms and the biggest store in the market. Their small, shabby home turned into a big, beautiful house with many rooms. Lau and Fatima became rich, and everyone admired them. Their daughters enjoyed a luxurious life with pretty clothes, beautiful things, and delicious food. People in the village even started calling them princesses because of their new wealth and fancy life. Even with all their money and nice things, sadness stayed in Lau and Fatima's home. Lau's oldest daughter couldn't see anymore, and Fatima often asked Lau to use their money to find a healer, but Lau always said no. "It's her fate," he'd say with a sad heart. "We can't change it." Fatima felt helpless, but she trusted Lau to know what was best. People in the village whispered about the blind girl and wondered why Lau didn't try to help her, but no one asked him. Despite their wealth, sadness was always there. Lau and Fatima tried to focus on good things, but they knew their happiness had a big cost. 2 years passed, and Lau and Fatima kept living their rich life. Their farms did well, and their store was the biggest in the market. Their daughters had everything, but the sadness from the first sacrifice stayed. Then one day, the herbalist sent for Lau. Lau knew what this meant. He went to see the herbalist, who said it was time to renew his wealth. This time, Lau had to sacrifice his second daughter. Lau felt awful. He didn't want to hurt another child, but the herbalist warned him. If he didn't make the sacrifice, he'd lose all his money and go crazy. Lau felt stuck. After a lot of fear and sadness, he agreed. He went home feeling heavy and put more black powder in his children's food. The next morning, his second daughter couldn't speak or hear. She was deaf and couldn't talk. The family was sad, and Fatima cried for her child. But Lau said it was fate, just like before. A few days later, the mysterious man in black came back to their house. He said he was traveling and asked to stay the night. By morning, he was gone, but he left a big sack of money. Lau and Fatima opened it and found lots of money again. They were rich once more. Fatima begged Lau to use some of the money to help their second daughter, but Lau refused. He insisted it was her fate, and there was nothing they could do. Fatima started to feel suspicious, but she stayed silent, not knowing what to believe. The family continued to live in luxury, but now with 2 daughters who were suffering. Lau and Fatima tried to enjoy their wealth, but the price they had paid weighed heavily on their hearts. The pattern repeated itself: a visit to the herbalist, a reluctant agreement, and another daughter affected. Lau and Fatima's wealth continued to grow, but so did their inner turmoil and the suffering of their daughters. As time went on, the burden of their secret became heavier. Lau's heart ached with guilt each time he looked at his daughters, now 2 of whom were afflicted. Fatima, torn between her love for her children and her loyalty to her husband, struggled silently. She saw how their once happy home had become clouded with sadness, despite the abundance of material wealth. Their daughters had everything they needed materially, but their lives were filled with silence and darkness. The oldest navigated their large home using a white cane, relying on memory and touch. The second communicated through gestures and expressions, her lively voice now gone, replaced by silence. Meanwhile, the youngest two remained blissfully unaware of the sacrifices their family had made for their comfort, playing and laughing innocently, untouched by the sadness that clouded their older sisters' lives. The villagers whispered among themselves, speculating about the source of Lau and Fatima's sudden wealth and the strange misfortunes that had befallen their daughters. Some spoke of curses and dark magic, while others shook their heads in pity, sensing that something deeply troubling lay behind the glittering facade. One day, Lau received another summons from the herbalist. This time, the demand was clear: his third daughter must be sacrificed to maintain their prosperity. Lau's resolve began to crumble. The weight of his decisions, the suffering of his daughters, and the facade of happiness they maintained became unbearable. He knew he couldn't continue this way, sacrificing his own flesh and blood for wealth that brought only emptiness. That night, Lau couldn't sleep. He lay beside Fatima, who stared into the darkness, tears held back in her eyes. Finally, Lau whispered, "I can't keep doing this. I can't sacrifice another child." Fatima nodded quietly, feeling her heart break for their daughters and the years lost to the herbalist's dark deal. The next morning, Lau made a brave choice. He went to the village square, where everyone gathered. With a shaky voice, he told them everything about the herbalist, the sacrifices, and the cost they had paid for their wealth. The villagers listened in shocked silence, their faces showing a mix of horror and sympathy. As Lau finished his tale, a solemn hush fell over the crowd. Then, an elderly woman stepped forward, her voice firm and gentle. "Lau," she said, "we suspected something was amiss, but we couldn't imagine the extent of your suffering. You have paid a heavy price indeed." The village rallied around Lau and Fatima. They comforted them, helped them care for their daughters, and vowed to support them through the difficult days ahead. With the villagers' help, Lau and Fatima sought out healers and wise women who might offer solace and aid to their afflicted daughters. Days turned into weeks, and Lau and Fatima began to heal, their burden lightened by the support of their community. The herbalist, shunned by the villagers for his dark deeds, vanished from the village, leaving behind only whispers and a lingering sense of caution. Over time, Lau and Fatima's daughters found some comfort. Despite their challenges, they were enveloped in love and tenderness, and their parents did everything possible to alleviate their pain. Lau and Fatima came to understand a difficult truth about the real price of wealth and the risks of making agreements with powers they couldn't comprehend. They reconstructed their lives with humility and appreciation, treasuring the small pleasures that had supported them before their lives took a drastic turn. And so, Lau and Fatima's tale became a cautionary story passed down through generations in the village. It reminded everyone of the importance of kindness, honesty, and the true value of family, lessons learned at great cost, but never forgotten. I hope you enjoyed this tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to African Tales by Zoe. Make sure to turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.